Good morning, my dear friends. This was the one topic is pending in your batch. Columns was we are unable to complete it because the time constraint at that time. So this we are going to, now I am recording the lecture on the columns. So this topic is columns. It is included only in the GATE syllabus. It is not included in the ESC syllabus. So those who are preparing for only engineering service, you can skip this now. Those who are preparing for GATE, you can focus it now. But in the GATE syllabus also, they have not mentioned the column. They mentioned the title is going to be Euler formula. That's why you are covering only with respect to GATE, that is the Euler formula. Some civil teachers, they are going to spend the more time. This is an important topic for civil engineers. So we are not covering the other formulas, Rankine formula and everything. And some portion of this one already are completed. Eccentric loading of the columns already completed. There are 4 questions you already done it. When you are done the questions on eccentric axial load questions, they're already there in this now. Total workbook, there are 14 to 15 questions are there. Remaining all the chapters, you are having around 35 to 40 questions are there. More than 40 is also there. Some of the important chapters now. But here I kept it only 13 to 14 questions because this is only for GATE and only Euler formula. And out of that 14 questions, already done the 4 questions, only 7 or 8 questions are based upon this Euler formula. That only are written. So first column, we have studied the difference between a column and a beam. When you are studying the deflection of the beams now, column is a structural member subjected to axial compressive load. Beam is a structural member subjected to transverse shear load. And end conditions of column may be both ends fixed, just like a fixed beam, or both ends hinged, just like a simply supported beam. Other one is what other possibility, fixed and hinged, that is just like a propped cantilever beam, and fixed and free, just like a cantilever beam. So different between beam and column is, columns are what now? Subjected to axial compressive load. Beams are transverse shear load. So there are 3 type of columns are there based upon length to cross-sectional dimension. Long columns I am representing by LC. Short column I am representing by SC. Medium columns are MC. To save your time, already I had written already on the board now. So the column is defined as a structural member subjected to axial compressive load, ACL, axial compressive load during its functionality. End conditions of column may be both ends fixed, both ends hinged, or fixed and hinged and fixed and free. Both ends fixed means just like a fixed beam. Both ends hinged means just like a simply supported beam. Fixed and hinged means propped cantilever. Fixed and free means just like a cantilever. And types of columns are going to be 3 types now. Long column, medium and the short column. These are all relative words. Long column means length is very large when compared to cross-sectional dimensions. Short column means length is going to be less, cross-sectional dimensions are more. Mostly civil engineers are deal with long columns. Most of the columns used in the structures, they are all long columns. But mechanical engineers mostly deal with the medium and short columns. Your IC engine piston is treated as a short column. IC engine piston subjected to gas load. Gas load is acting as axial compressive load. Connecting rod is what now? Small end of the connecting rod is connected to piston by means of a gudgeon pin. So connecting rod is treated as a medium column. LC, MC and the SC. And helical compression spring subjected to axial compressive load. Here you are studying with respect to columns. But being a mechanical engineer, you have to apply this knowledge for the machine component subjected to axial compressive load. Most of your IC engine components subjected to axial compressive load. What the main load acting now? Gas load is acting as an axial compressive load. Since length is going to be very large, we have studied what the difference between buckling and bending. Bending is about now deviation of the longitudinal axis of a structural member due to transverse shear load. And buckling is what you have studied now. Deviation of the longitudinal axis of a structural member due to axial compressive load. Deviation of a longitudinal axis of a structural member under TSL you are called as what now? Bending. Deviation of the longitudinal axis of a structural member under ACL is called the buckling. Generally you have studied what now? mostly long columns are subjected to buckling and short columns are going to be subjected to what? A crushing. I take an example also in the deflection of the beam chapter. Now, between my two fingers I kept a short spring, and between these two fingers I kept a long spring. If I am going to push it, so this column, this spring is subjected to, length is going to be decreased, crushing. But what about this long spring now? If I push it, before length reduction, what happens? Axis is going to be gets deviated. So long columns are mostly fails due to buckling. Before length reduction, axis is going to be gets deviated, and short columns before deviation, axis of the longitudinal axis, length is going to be reduced. So short columns are fails by crushing. Long columns are fails by buckling. So the long columns are designed based upon buckling load. Short columns are designed based upon crushing load. But what about the medium column? Neither they are too long nor too short. So these columns are designed based upon the both crushing and buckling load. So these columns are strong in what now? Strong in crushing. Mean they will withstand the more load in crushing than the buckling. So which one the failure will occur first now? Before length reduction, buckling will occur. Here these columns are going to be fails due to strong in buckling. Strong in buckling means their buckling load is more than crushing load. Here crushing load is more than buckling load. But here both are going to be considerable. That's why connecting rod is designed based upon both crushing load and the buckling load. And columns used in the structure, they are designed based upon the buckling load. And short columns are designed based upon the crushing load. Now, I take an example here now. To differentiate the short and long column now. This member is what? A too large. Length is what now? Length is very large. Cross-sectional dimensions are too small. But here, this length is less. Cross-sectional dimensions are more. This look like a long column. This look like a short column now. Now both are subjected to axial compressive load. So when this load is gradually increases, what happens now? Before length reduce. Generally, what the effect of the axial compressive load? Length reduction. But here before length is going to be decreased, axis is going to be gets deviated. This red color portion is the initial portion, and this blue color dotted is the bottom. Final now. So before length reduction, axis is going to be gets deviated. So this column is going to be failed by buckling. Axis deviated. This is what now? This curve is called about the black color axis is called about a buckling curve. Here, as the load is going to be increased, length is going to be decreased, and cross-sectional dimension will increase. So when this length will permanently decrease, when the length is permanently decreased, diameter will permanently increase. When the stress induced is more than yield strength in crushing, when the permanent deformation will occur now, when stress induced is more than yield strength. So with the stress developed, that the axial stress is greater than yield strength in crushing, the length is going to be decreased and diameter will diameter will increase. Therefore, these columns are fails due to crushing. These columns are fails due to crushing. Means they were able to withstand what now? More buckling load. Mean before buckling, crushing occur now. So they are going to be fails due to buckling. So they fails due to crushing. But here they are strong in crushing, weak in buckling. So this fails due to buckling. So this curve is known as buckling curve. buckling curve. So what the shape of this buckling curve? Just like a simply supported beam. Means here which end conditions are assumed now? Both ends are here. Rotation is permitted. Means which support will permit the rotation? Simple supports. Means here assume the what now? Both ends are going to be hinged. Suppose both ends are fixed, what happens? They will not permit the rotation. So whatever the shape, this shape of the curve, this is the shape of the buckling curve when the column is what now? Supported the both ends by hinge supports now. So this is treated as a what now? Long column. Hinged at both the ends. Hinged at both the ends. This is treated as about a short column. Short column. For example, I am taking for my explanation, I am assuming here buckling load is 5 kilonewtons. Crushing load is buckling load. E means what now? Euler's buckling. B you are not using. B you are using for bending. E means Euler's buckling load. PC means crushing load. Now, what the meaning of this now? This given column is able to withstand a maximum compressive load of how much now? 5 kilonewton without buckling. So whenever this load P greater than this value, what happens now? Buckling will occur. Axis is going to be gets deviated. But when length is going to be decreased, when the length is going to be permanently decreased now, when this load is greater than 10 kilonewtons. Now the condition is, we have to design in such a way that what now? So which failure will get it first now? Whenever this load is what? If the load is going to be gradually increases, whenever this load is greater than 5 kilonewton, what happens? Buckling will occur. Then the column is said to be a failure. So we have to design in such a way that what now? Neither crushing should occur nor buckling should occur. But here which failure is likely to occur first now? Buckling will likely to occur. Whenever this load is greater than 5 kilonewton, what happens now? Axis gets deviated. That's why these columns are failed due to buckling. So what is the maximum value for P? What the maximum value for P so that both the failures should not occur mean what now? As per a given example, this should be less than or equal to, that is buckling load. So this long column, this given column is able to withstand a maximum compressive load how much now? 5. Means as long as what now? Applied load is less than or equal to 5 kilonewton. There is no failure, no buckling. When there is no buckling means there is no crushing. Here which one is likely to occur first? Now buckling. If there is no buckling means there is no crushing. So always you have to design this column such that what now? We have to design such that there should not be buckling. When there is no buckling, there is no crushing. So this load is called as what now? Maximum load that a column can withstand without buckling, without axis deviation. This is nothing but a strength of this column. What the meaning of strength? Maximum load it can withstand without any failure. What the strength of the long columns now? Buckling load. Strength of the long column is the buckling load. So whenever the load is more than the buckling load, what happens now? Buckling will occur. When there is no buckling, there is no crushing. So what the buckling load definition now? What the buckling load definition? Maximum compressive load. Buckling load definition is what now? This load I am calling the buckling load. What the meaning of this buckling load now? Maximum value of compressive load that a given column is able to withstand without undergoing any axis deviation, that without any buckling, maximum compressive load it can withstand without any buckling or axis deviation. So always for long column, what the condition now? P should be less than or equal to buckling load. Is a safe condition. If this condition is satisfied, there is no buckling. When there is no buckling, there is no crushing. So the final conclusion is what? Long columns are always should be designed based upon the buckling load. So for the long columns, PC is greater than PE. PC is greater than PE. Withstand the more compressive load than the more crushing load than the more buckling load. Next, what about here now? Here for these columns, for this column, crushing load is 10 kilonewtons. Buckling load is 20. What the meaning of this now? This given column is able to withstand a maximum compressed load how much now? 10. Whenever this value is greater than 10, what happens now? Crushing will occur. Length is going to be permanently decrease. Diameter will permanently increase. Now, as long as this P less than or equal to 10, that is less than PC, less than PC, PC, there is no crushing. When there is no crushing, there is no buckling. So we have to design in such a way that what now? There is no crushing. When there is no crushing means automatically there is no buckling. So what the strength of this column now? What the strength of this column now? 10 kilonewton. What the meaning of this 10 kilonewton now? This much amount of maximum compressive load that a column can withstand without crushing. So what the crushing load definition now? Crushing load is the maximum compressive load that a column can withstand without undergoing any permanent deformation. And what the buckling load definition now? Maximum compressive load that a column can withstand without undergoing any axis deviation. Without undergoing any axis deviation, that is without any buckling. So always for short column, what the condition now? Buckling load is greater than crushing load. That's why these columns should be designed based upon the crushing load. Short column should be designed based upon the crushing load. Long column should be designed based upon the buckling load. Long column should be designed based upon the buckling load. Short column should be designed based upon the crushing load. Now we don't know the expression for PC. I taken randomly expression for PC. Now one minute. I taken these values randomly now. Now we are going to discuss how to get that buckling load. So for that only what a scientist Euler has derived a expression for the buckling load. That formula is called as what a Euler's or buckling load formula that is represented by PE. PE is equal to pi square E I minimum upon LE square, or N pi square E I minimum upon LE square. E the Young's modulus. I minimum is the what now? Minimum of IXX and IYY. Minimum of IXX and IYY. Minimum value you have to take it. But in the beams, you have to take the moment of inertia about the neutral axis. But here, I have to consider both IXX and IYY. Both you have to calculate, and whichever the minimum you have to take it. But in which cross section both IXX and IYY are equal now? Square and circular. So whenever a square and circular, you can take any value, either IXX or IYY. But other than circular and square, if a rectangular cross section is given, shall I take IXX or IYY means? Both you have to calculate whichever the minimum that you have to take it. Default XX HCA and default YY the VCA. In beams, you have to calculate about neutral axis. But in columns, you have to calculate both about HCA and VCA. Finally, whichever the minimum that you have to take it. L is the actual length of the column. And this LE is the effective length of the column. And this is going to be given by alpha into L. This alpha is known as the length fixity coefficient. Then automatically n equal to 1 by alpha square. This is the actual equation. Most of the textbook they are going to write, but some of the Indian author textbook they are writing like this. Which is better now? This is better. So directly what a higher value of n means directly higher buckling load. Higher the value of n means higher buckling load, means it is going to be a strongest one. But here P is directly proportional to n. P is inversely proportional to alpha square. These values are depend upon the end condition. How many end conditions are possible? 4. That I'm going to write down. That has to be remembered now. Both and fixed, both and hinge, fixed and fixed and free. So comparison purpose, which one is better? No, n is better. More value of n means one end condition. N is 2 times the end condition of other one means what now? Automatically this is what? 2 times stronger now. But this is what now? Inversely proportional to alpha square. So alpha is called as the length fixity coefficient. N is the 1 by alpha square. Any one you can remember it now. Now, from this one what you can mention now? Buckling load is proportional to Young's modulus. Proportional to I minimum. Proportional to inversely proportional to 1 by L square. And proportional to N. Or you can call it as what now? Inversely proportional to 1 by alpha square. But these are all depend upon what now? When they are valid now. When other parameters remain same. Other parameters remain same. So when the buckling load depend upon only Young's modulus. If moment of inertia of other moment of inertia same. Length is same. End condition same. When buckling load depend upon only moment of inertia now. When material is same. When end conditions are same. When length is same. Buckling load inversely proportional to L square means as the length of the column is increases. If remaining all other parameters are same. But if the length of the column is increases, what happens? The buckling load decreases. That's why short columns are going to withstand the more axial compressive load. So which columns are strongest under compressive load? Short columns. As the length of the column is increases, what happens now? Their axial load carrying capacity is going to be decreases. Their axial load carrying capacity decreases. Then higher the value of n means higher the buckling load. Now, I'm going to write down the buckling load of 2 columns. One solid circular, one hollow circular. One solid circular, hollow circular. And K is equal to half. What the K now? K is the ratio of inner diameter to outer diameter. This is a question in workbook. It asks what now? But for this, both the column, which one is same now? Cross section is different. But which one is same now? Length of the columns are same. Material is same. Area is same. And alpha is same means end conditions are same. But only which is different now? Shape of the cross section different. Either solid circular and here hollow circular. Now, next one is what now? Length is same. Material is same. Diameter same. End conditions are same. Now, in this case, what this ratio now? Already I written what? In the torsion chapter I written now. Moment of inertia ratio. Now, this will be equal to, for same area. For same area, which one is better? Now, hollow is the better now. 1 minus k square upon 1 plus k square. These ratios was given in the torsion chapter now. So, this will be 3 by 5. 3 by 5. Next one is what now? When diameters are same. When diameters are same, which one is better now? Hollow is better. When diameters are same, this one will be what now? 1 by 1 minus k to the power of 4. Then 16 by 15. 16 by 15. 16 by 15. 1 by 1. It should be careful now. Options are given 3 by 5 there, 16 by 15 is there, 5 by 16 is there, and 5 by 3 there. So it should be what now? So here, hollow is better. Therefore, ratio should be less than 1. In the second case, solid is better. Therefore, ratio should be more than 1. All these ratios are given. Now, I'm going to give the alpha values, end conditions. I've taken 4 columns now. I've taken 4 columns. In all these columns, which one is same now? Material is same. Length is same. Moment of inertia same. But only which one is different? End condition. Here, both and fixed. Fixed and hinged and fixed. Both and hinged, fixed and free. So horizontally I taken the end conditions. Vertically I taken the values of alpha and n. Vertically I taken value of alpha and n. Alpha and n. N is equal to 1 by alpha square. So this end condition similar to fixed beam. This end condition similar to fixed beam. Then buckling curve is similar to elastic curve of fixed beam. At fixed end what? Now slope is 0. So what the shape of the curve now? This curve is similar to elastic curve of the buckling curve. This buckling curve is similar to elastic curve of fixed beam. At the fixed end, slope is 0. BF means both and fixed. Here alpha value is 1 by 2. 1 by 2. Next, this is what a fixed and hinged propped cantilever beam. Propped cantilever beam. Hinge support will permit the rotation. So slope is non-zero. This is the shape of the curve. This curve is similar to elastic curve of propped cantilever beam. F and H, fixed and hinged. And here alpha value will be 1 by root 2. 1 by root 2. Next, both ends hinged, just like a simply supported beam. Just like a simply supported beam. This is the elastic curve of simply support beam. Both ends will permit the rotation. BH. BH means both ends hinged, fixed and hinged, both ends fixed. Next, this is cantilever beam, fixed and free. This curve is similar to elastic curve of cantilever beam. So when I am going from left to right, what happens now? Buckling is increases. This is permitting more buckling. Here I am getting least buckling, means this is the strongest one. Strongest one means here alpha value is going to be less now. So when I am going from left to right, alpha value is going to be increases. When alpha increase, buckling load is going to be decrease. Buckling load is inversely proportional to alpha square. That's why this is the strongest one. For same material, same length and same moment of inertia, both and fixed the strongest one, and fixed and free the weakest one. Now what about the n value now? 4, 2, this is 1. Here this end condition will be 1 and this will be 2. 1 by 2, 1 by root 2, 1 and 2, and this will be 1 by 4. So this one is how many times stronger when compared to this now? Both and fixed when compared to fixed and hinge 2 times stronger. And both and fixed when compared to both and hinged 4 times stronger. And both and fixed when compared to fixed and free 16 times stronger. So which one is the strongest one? Buckling load of both and fixed greater than buckling load of fixed and hinged. Next, stronger is both ends hinged. Next, F and F, fixed and free. F and F. Now, what the buckling load of both ends fixed? 2 times the buckling load of fixed and hinged. 4 times the buckling load of both ends hinged. And 16 times the fixed and free. Fixed and free. So this is what, how many times stronger when compared to this? No, 2 times. When compared to both ends hinged, 4 times stronger. And when compared to fixed and free, 16 times stronger. So that's why what, for a given length, given material and given moment of inertia, both and fixed is 2 times stronger than fixed and hinged. 4 times stronger when compared to both and hinged. 16 times stronger than both and free. So these are all valid when for a given material. Means E is same, given length and moment of n, but which one is different here now? End conditions. So these values should be remembered. Either remember the alpha or remember the n. I written in the decreasing order. I written now. Means alpha value is going to be increase, n value is going to be decrease. So try to remember these values. Either alpha or n should be remembered. Either alpha and n. So with this one you can complete almost all the question. Only small topic is left out, slenderness ratio. So that I'm going to do the recording. One more lecture will be there. Maybe half an hour, 45 minutes. Slenderness ratio. Then as well as we'll do the 1 or 2 questions of the workbook. But most of the objective questions can be complete for this now. So this has to be remembered. But in all this case, material is same, length is same, moment of inertia same. But which one are different now? End conditions are different. So for the same length, same material, same moment of inertia, both and fixed the strongest one. It will give the more buckling load. And fixed and free is going to be about the weakest one. It will easily buckle. So this both and fixed, 4 times stronger when compared to both and hinged. When compared to fixed and hinged, 2 times stronger. When compared to fixed and free, 16 times stronger. So we'll continue in the one more session. So this is going to be mostly all your questions you can complete it. So one more topic is going to be there, small topic, slenderness ratio. I need around half an hour to 45 minutes that I'm going to record it separately. Thank you. Good morning, my dear friends. So in the last lecture, we have studied up to the introduction portion you have completed. What is the difference between short and medium and long columns you have studied? Short columns are failed by crushing, long columns are failed by buckling. That is, for short columns, buckling load is greater than the crushing load. Long columns, crushing load is greater than the buckling load. And the medium column failed by both buckling and crushing. So the short column should be designed based upon the crushing load. Long column should be designed based upon the buckling load. So for that one, you have studied the Euler formula. That is the Euler formula: P is equal to pi square E by S square. Pi square E I upon pi square E I minimum upon L square. I minimum is the minimum of moment of inertia about HCA and VCA. And LE is equal to alpha into L. Alpha is the length fixity coefficient. Or the same thing here written in terms of N. N is the end fixity coefficient. Pi square N pi square E I minimum upon L square. So from that one you have studied, if the remaining parameters are same, buckling load is proportional to Young's modulus. More Young's modulus mean more buckling load. And similarly, buckling load is directly proportional to I minimum. So generally a standard question will be there now. If the diameter of solid circular column becomes double, if the diameter of a solid circular column becomes double, if remaining parameters are same, remaining parameter mean material is same, length is same, end condition same. There are two columns. There are two columns, same material, same length, same end condition. But this diameter is D, this diameter is 2D. Then automatically the buckling load of this column will be what? 16 times more. Buckling load is proportional to I minimum. What the moment of inertia of a solid circular now? Either you can take Ixx or Iyy pi by 64 d to the power of 4. So for a solid circular column, the buckling load is directly proportional to d to the power of 4. If the diameter become double, buckling load is increased by 16 times. Similarly, what now? If the diameter decreased by 20%, what the reduction in the buckling load? So like this questions are going to be there, and you have studied for a solid and hollow circular column ratios you have studied now. If there are two columns, one is a solid circular, one is a hollow circular. Both have the what? The same length, same material, same end condition, but cross section is different. Cross section is going to be different. So we have studied the what now? Ratio of the buckling loads of two columns which are made of the same material, same length, same end condition. But one is a solid circular, one is a hollow circular. At that time the ratios are, if areas are same, hollow will be a stronger one. Then at that time, buckling load of a solid circular column to hollow circular column will be 1 minus k square by 1 plus k square. If k is equal to half, it is 3 by 5. And the for same diameter, the ratio of the buckling load of a solid circular column to hollow circular column will be 1 by 1 minus k to the power of 4. If k is equal to half, it is 16 by 15. Next you have studied, I have given the alpha values. We have considered 4 columns of same length, same material, same moment of inertia, but end conditions are different. So you have prepared a table. So at that time what you have studied now, for same material, same length and same moment of inertia, buckling load of both ends fixed, BF, is 2 times the buckling load of fixed and hinged, and 4 times the buckling load of both ends hinged, and 16 times the buckling load of fixed and free. So at that time you have mentioned both ends fixed is going to be the strongest column. But they're all valid what? The same length, same material, same moment of inertia. So these are all valid what? Now I have given alpha values and n values. I have given the alpha values left to right. Alpha value is going to be decreases now, but n value will, alpha value is going to be what? What the alpha values you have studied now? 1 by 2, 1, sorry, 1 by root 2. Next, 1 and 2 you have studied now. Both ends fixed. So when I am going from the left to right, alpha value is increasing, mean buckling load is going to be decreases. But what the n value you have studied, this is 4, this is 2, and this is 1. So from this only you have mentioned what now? Buckling load is direct. For comparison, always n value is better now. The buckling load of both ends fixed is 2 times the buckling load of fixed and hinged. And when compared to both ends fixed hinged, buckling load of both ends fixed is 2 times the buckling load of fixed and hinged. And when compared to both ends hinged, 4 times. When compared to fixed and free, 16 times. This here written as both ends fixed. This is fixed and hinged. Both ends hinged. And the last one is the fixed and free. So most of the objective question like this now. Most of students, they'll remember these values now, but you should also remember the sequence. Arranged in a decreasing order of n. Decreasing order of n and increasing order of alpha. Otherwise, what now? Decreasing order of PE. So left to right, the buckling load is going to be decreased. So this will give the more buckling load, means it will give the more strongest column. This end condition will give the more strongest column now. And the last one is about a fixed and free, will give the weakest column. And what the buckling load definition is studied now? Buckling load is the maximum axial compressive load. Maximum axial compressive load that a column can withstand without undergoing buckling. Buckling load is defined as the maximum axial compressive load that a column can withstand without undergoing any buckling, that is without undergoing axis deviation. This is all you have studied in the last lecture. Now, we are going to some more portion is left out slenderness ratio. So I considered 2 columns. In both the column, which one is same now? Area is same. Material is same. Both are made of the same material, same area. But they are made of different cross section. One is a square, other one is a circular. So out of these two, which is the strongest column? Which of the above columns are strongest? Is a square cross section. And end conditions are same. So far you have studied alpha is used to compare what now? Alpha and n are used to compare different column buckling load which are made of same material, same length and same moment of inertia. But in this case, which one is different now? End conditions are same, means alpha values are same. Area is same, material is same. But cross section is different. One is a square, one is a circular. But they're also having the different lengths are there. Different lengths are there. So most of the students are going to tell first one is the strongest one. Some students are going to tell second one is the strongest one. Here we cannot directly tell it now. Why? Buckling load depend upon the moment of inertia. Areas are same. Area is same, in moment of inertia is not same. So which one will have the more moment of inertia? Square. That already I studied now. For same area, square cross section moment of inertia is more than solid circular. So based upon moment of inertia, this is stronger. First one is the stronger. But buckling load is also inversely proportional L square because end conditions are same. So based upon the length, this is a stronger one. So directly we cannot tell. If length is also same, then at that time the first column is the strongest one. But length also different. Buckling load is directly proportional to moment of inertia, inversely proportional to L square if end conditions are same. So here we cannot directly tell it now. So for both the column, which one is same now? E is same. Alpha values are same. But which one are different now? Moment of inertia are different. I1 is greater than I2. L1 is greater than L2. From this one, what the conclusion now? Buckling load of first column greater than the buckling load of second column. But from this one, buckling load of first column less than buckling load of second column now. So we cannot directly tell it now. In this case, we have to find out the ratio. I1 by I2. PE1 by PE2 equal to I1 by I2 into L2 by L1 whole square. L2 by L1 whole square. So if the numericals are given, you can complete it now. So I'm giving some input data, you can complete it now. Buckling load depend upon the material. Buckling load depend upon the material. But here material is same. E is what now? Buckling load proportional to E. Buckling load is proportional to E. But material is same. But it's proportional to moment of inertia. But moment of inertia is different, but areas are same. And inversely proportional to end condition. LE square. But here alpha is also same. So buckling load is inversely proportional to L square. So now you can vote now. Some input data is going to be given. You can calculate. I'm giving some numerical data. You can check it now. Complete this calculation. A1 equal to A2 is equal to 1000 mm square. And L1 is equal to 1 meter. L2 equal to 0.85 meters. So this you can complete it now. Areas are same 1000 mm square. Areas are same 1000 mm square. But lengths are what? The first one is 1 meter, second one is 0.85 meters. As per my expectation, the second one should be a strongest one. You should get it now. Because of what now? Buckling load is inversely proportional to L square. Buckling load is inversely proportional to L square. So complete this calculation now. So try to refer the data properly. Go through the input data. So many times I mentioned moment of inertia will not be the same if areas are same, moment of inertia need not be same. And when you are studying the bending stress chapter, clearly mentioned for a given area, moment of inertia of I section greater than the moment of inertia of a T section, and T section moment of inertia more than the rectangular section, thin and wider rectangular section. Thick and narrow. Moment of for a same area, moment of inertia of a I section greater than the moment of inertia of a T section, and whose moment of inertia more than thick and narrow. Thick and narrow. That is, depth should be more and width should be less now. And whose moment of inertia more than a square section, and square section moment of inertia more than the circular section, and circular section moment of inertia more than square cross section with diagonals are vertical and horizontal. This was studied in the bending stress chapter. Now, so one more parameter left out is the slenderness ratio. The slenderness ratio is the ratio of the effective length of the column. Slenderness ratio is the ratio of effective length of the column to radius of gyration. So this only I written now. Effective length of a column to radius of gyration. But radius of gyration is nothing but the square root of I minimum upon A. I minimum upon A. Everybody is going to write down square root of I by A. But here you to go for I minimum. Minimum of IXX and IYY. Now, slenderness ratio compare to buckling load of different column which are made of same material as well as what now? Same area. Same material and same area. Now, buckling stress, sigma E is nothing but the buckling stress. Buckling load is nothing but which load now? Axial compressive load. What the axial stress formula? Load upon A. So buckling stress is going to be given by buckling load upon area. Buckling load upon area. Now you can simplify this now. Buckling load is equal to how much now? Pi square E I minimum upon LE square upon area. I by A. This I by A is equal to how much is now? I by A is equal to K square. K square. That will write now pi square E K square by LE square. And if I bring this K into denominator, pi square E by LE by K whole square. So now this will become as slenderness ratio. LE by K is nothing but a slenderness ratio. So overall, what the buckling stress formula now? Buckling load upon area, and which is equal to pi square E by S square. Pi square E by S square. So if these two columns are given now, so you can vote now. You can use the which formula can be used now? Pi square E by S square. For both this column, material is what unknown. Material known means Young's modulus known. And slenderness ratio can calculate. Slenderness ratio can calculate by effective length of the column to the radius of gyration. So buckling stress is equal to pi square E by S square. Just now what you have mentioned now, it is used to compare buckling load of different column made of same material. Material is same and having same area. Buckling stress inversely proportional to S square when only E is same. Same material mean buckling stress inversely proportional to S square. But already what now? Area is also same. Area is also same. That's why what the buckling load is inversely proportional to S square. Buckling stress is inversely proportional to S square. When this is valid now, when material is same, E is same. But here area is also same. But buckling stress is equal to buckling load upon area. But area is also same. So directly what the buckling load is inversely proportional to when this is valid now, buckling stress inversely proportional to S square. This is valid when material is same. This is valid when material is same. But buckling stress is equal to buckling load upon area. But we are also assuming the area is also same. Means directly buckling stress, nothing but what a buckling load now. So hence directly what you can call it now, buckling load is inversely proportional to S square. This relation is valid only when E is same. But this relation is valid when now, when area and material is same. This is valid given material means E is same. At that time directly can write down only sigma E is inversely proportional to S square. But when E and A are same, and buckling stress both are inversely proportional to S square. But in the first case, buckling load is not inversely proportional to S square, because at that time buckling load is what now? Buckling stress also depend upon the area. So this is valid only material is same. But this relation is valid what now? When area and material are same. So that's why what I written now. For a given area and material, buckling load is inversely proportional to S square. Buckling load is inversely proportional to S square. Means as slenderness ratio increases, buckling load is going to be decreases. Buckling load decreases means what? The chance of buckling is more. If two columns, this column buckling load is 2 kilonewton. This column buckling load is going to be 10 kilonewton. What the meaning of this now? This buckling load is 2 kilonewton. This is 10 kilonewton. What the meaning of this now? This is able to withstand only maximum load of how much? Now 2 kilonewtons. But this is able to withstand 10 kilonewton. Means this is going to be what now? So whenever the load is more than 2, buckling will occur now. But here what now? This will buckle when now? When the load is more than 10. So which one is easily buckle now? This will buckle now. Buckling load is going to be what now? Less means chance of buckling is more. Buckling load is more means what? A chance of buckling is going to be less now. So here as the slenderness ratio increases, buckling load is going to be decreases. Buckling load is decreases means buckling tendency. Tendency means what? A chance of buckling is going to be more. So this is an indication of which column? A long column. Long columns are filled by buckling. Long columns are filled by buckling. This is an indication of long column. Mean long column will have the what now? More slenderness ratio. When slenderness ratio decreases, buckling load is going to be increased. Buckling load is increases mean what now? Chance of buckling is going to be less. Chance of buckling is less. Buckling tendency is going to be less. Means this is an indication of short column. The short column will have the lower slenderness ratio. That's why what I written now. Slenderness ratio of a short columns is less than the slenderness ratio of medium column, which is less than the slenderness ratio of long column, because buckling load of short columns is greater than so they're all valid when now? If all the columns are made up, all these columns are made of same material, same area, same material, same area. At that time, the short columns are able to withstand more compressive load without undergoing buckling. So buckling load of short columns are more than the buckling load of the medium columns, and buckling load of medium columns more than the buckling load of long columns. That's why long columns are easily buckled now. That's why mode of failure for the long columns is the buckling, and short columns mode of buckling, mode of what? A failure is about now? Crushing. These columns are failed by crushing. That only I discussed in last class now. Last lecture. Short columns you have taken, buckling load is what? 5 kilonewtons. Buckling load is what? A long column. You have taken an example in the last lecture now. Some numerical example you have taken now. For short columns, we assume the what now? Crushing load is some 5 and buckling load is going to be 20. And long columns, buckling load is 5, crushing load is 10. Solve with the buckling load of short columns are going to be more than the buckling load of long columns, but the condition should be what? The material should be same, area should be same. So always the slenderness ratio of short columns is less than the slenderness ratio of medium columns, which is less than the slenderness ratio of the long columns. Now for steel columns, these are the 3 steel columns are given to you now. 3 steel columns are given. It is generally a standard question. How we are going to differentiate the 3 columns are given to you? Is it a short column or long column or medium column? Then what the answer now? If they are all made of the same material, as in these are the 3 steel columns. Is it a short or medium or long column? In what you have to do it now? You have to find out the slenderness ratio. How to find out the slenderness ratio? LE by K. If the slenderness ratio less than or equal to 30 means the short columns. Between 30 and 100 is about a medium column. More than 100 is going to be a long columns. For this one material steel means Young's modulus is known. Then we need the S equal to LE by K. LE by K. So I know the length of the column, I know the diameter, then I can find out the moment of inertia. So if we can find out the slenderness ratio, if it is less than 30, it is a short column. More than 100 long column. Between 30 and 100 is a medium column. But these limits are valid for steel. If I change the material, suppose the aluminum, cast iron, once again these limits are changes now. Limit will change, but irrespective of whatever may be the material, whatever may be the material, whether it may be a steel or cast iron or aluminum, always the long column will have the more slenderness ratio. Short column will have the lower slenderness ratio. But for steel, slenderness ratio less than 30 means a short column. More than 100 means a long column. But somebody will ask now, sir, how you got these values? How you get values? That I'm going to discuss now. How we got these values? Generally in all the textbook, they are going to given like this now. But these values are valid for steel. If I change the material, these limits may change now. These limits may change, but always, whatever may be the material, short columns are having always lower slenderness ratio. Long column will have the more slenderness ratio. Now we'll discuss how we got these values now. Short columns are failed by crushing. Short columns are failed by crushing. That is what now? When the crushing will occur now? When stress induced greater than yield strength. So what the condition for failure for the short column? When buckling stress greater than SYC. When buckling stress greater than SYC. It is a short column. And the long columns are failed by elastic buckling. Long columns are failed by elastic buckling. But the condition for elastic deformation now? If a member should undergo elastic deformation, mean what the condition now? If a member should undergo only elastic deformation, what the condition now? Stress induced should be less than or equal to elastic limit. The same thing is going to be there now. Short columns are failed by crushing. Yielding due to crushing. Yielding due to crushing. So what the condition for failure for the short column now? Buckling stress should be greater than SYC. And long columns are failed by elastic buckling. So if a member should undergo elastic deformation, means stress induced should be less than or equal to elastic limit. Strictly it should be taken elastic limit. But some of the textbook they are writing the proportionate. Why now? Proportionate and elastic limit are very, very close. But strictly speaking, elastic limit. Sometime in place of the elastic limit, if proportionate is there, that you can take it now. But both elastic limit and proportionate both are given, then you have to go for a elastic limit should be considered now. The difference between elastic limit and proportionate already you have studied now. So this only I written now. Buckling stress greater than SYC. Buckling stress greater than SYC is a short column. If it is greater than SYC, what happens now? Yielding will occur in crushing. Permanent deformation will occur now. Length will permanently decrease. Diameter will permanently increase. That is a short column now. And if the buckling stress less than or equal to elastic limit. EL means elastic limit. Then it will undergo only elastic now. Because long columns are failed by elastic buckling. We are studying, your subject is dealing with the only elastic. Plastic buckling we are not discussing, only elastic. Now we can write down now. For short column, what the condition now? Short column, buckling stress should be greater than SYC. Short columns. Sigma E should be greater than SYC. What the buckling stress expression of pi square E by S square. Now from this one, what the S value now? S should be less than or equal to square root of pi square E by SYC. Now if I can substitute the steel Young's modulus, steel SYC, this value you are going to get it, 30 value you are going to get it now. If I am going to material to material, Young's modulus will change, SYC will change. So if I am going to substitute the steel Young's modulus and steel SYC, then this value you are going to get it 30. But if I go for aluminum Young's modulus, aluminum SYC, I have to take it now. Then once again limit will change now. Next, similarly for long column, what the condition now? Buckling stress should be less than or equal to elastic limit. And once again, what the buckling stress expression of pi square E by S square, less than or equal to elastic limit. From that one, S is what now? Greater than square root of pi square E by elastic limit. SYC is more or elastic limit is more. SYC is more. So when the denominator is more, means automatically this value is going to be less. And elastic limit less than SYC. That's why steels, this value will be what now? More than this now. Steel SYC, always any material SYC, yield strength is more than elastic limit. So that's why if I go to substitute the steel Young's modulus steel SYC, this value I'm going to get it 30. And if I'm going to substitute the steel Young's modulus and steel elastic limit, this value I'm going to get it 100. This value is 100 because of what elastic limit is less than SYC. Elastic limit is less than SYC. Then automatically what happens now? Elastic limit is less than SYC. When denominator is going to be less, automatically what now? This value will be more. Therefore, S of long columns is greater than short columns now. In case of steel, this value will be, we are going to get it 100. And this value you are going to get a 30. If I change the material, this will change. So sometime objective question will be given now. For short columns, for a short column, if a column is what now? Aluminium. Some material is going to be given. Up to which value of slenderness ratio? Up to which value of slenderness ratio? Aluminum will behave like a short column. Means I have to substitute the what? The aluminum Young's modulus, aluminum SYC. Then from that one, S you can get it now. Same thing, you can get it for the long column. Now, so I'm going to same thing, whatever you have studied. These are all valid what now? For a given material. If a material changes, the limits will change. What I have written, steel I have written now. So better to always steel, you are going to remember it. Similarly, somebody will ask, how will you get for another material? Means what the answer now? We can explain this now. Sir, by substituting the steel Young's modulus steel SYC, I can get the upper limit for the, this will give the upper limit or lower limit? Upper limit for the steel columns. This is the upper limit for the steel columns, less than or equal to upper limit. And this is a lower limit for the, this will give the lower limit for the long columns, lower limit for the long columns. Therefore, what the lower limit for the long columns now in case of steel? 100. Greater than 100 is the what now? Long column. Less than or equal to 30. So this will give the, this is what now? Lower limit for S lower limit. Slenderness ratio. Sorry. Slenderness ratio upper limit for short columns. Slenderness ratio upper limit for short columns. And this will give the slenderness ratio lower limit for long column. So in case of steel, this is what 100 is about the lower limit for the long column. And this is what 30, that is the upper limit. So this will give the upper limit for the slenderness ratios, upper limit for the short column. And this is about a lower limit of the slenderness ratio for the long columns. So just whatever you have studied, I'm expressing in the tabular form, sir, graphical representation for a given material, material means what? E is same for a given material. So directly what does buckling stress inversely proportional to now serial number buckling, sorry, slenderness ratio. So as the slenderness ratio increases, what happens now? As slenderness ratio increases, what about the buckling stress now? Will decrease. but decreases hyperbolically, inversely proportional to s square. It is about a hyperbolic variation. Proportional to s square means what a parabolic you are going to get it. So as the slenderness ratio increases, buckling stress will decrease hyperbolically. As slenderness ratio increases, buckling stress is going to be decreases hyperbolically. So this only I drawn a graph now. So whatever the graph I drawn, along x-axis I have taken the slenderness ratio. Along y-axis I have taken the now you can see now. This is valid for a given material. Material Young's modulus is going to be fixed now. So steel Young's modulus fixed. So by substituting S is equal to 1, S is equal to 2, S equal to 10, S equal to 100. So continuously what now? As the slenderness ratio increases, the buckling stress is going to be decreases hyperbolically. So this curve is valid for a given material. Now, after getting this curve, now how to decide up to which value of slenderness ratio short column and up to which value it is going to be a long column. How to decide it now? So this S1, S2. Just now you have studied what now? Short column means buckling stress should be, I have taken some limit of S1. Corresponding y coordinate is sigma E1. And corresponding to S2 is about now buckling stress is going to be sigma E2. Now, for the short column you have studied now. Short column means buckling stress should be greater than SYC. Means, suppose this value is what now? SYC. This is elastic limit. Which one is more now? SYC is more. Corresponding to S1, I am getting a buckling stress value. Assume that they are going to be SYC. And corresponding to S2, I am getting a buckling stress of sigma E2. And that value equal to elastic limit. Now, if I take any value less than S1, what happens? If I take any value less than S1, what about the y coordinate? Now, y coordinate is more than SYC. Means crushing will occur now. Means less than S1. The buckling stress will be what? More than SYC. So it's a short column. Next, if I take any value greater than S2, then what the y coordinate now? Less than elastic limit. Less than elastic limit means it is going to be undergoing elastic buckling. So greater than S2, it is about now. So any value greater than S2 will give a what now? Will represent a long column. And any value less than S1 will give a short column. Therefore, this will be the what now? Upper limit for the short column. And these are lower limit for the long columns. Now, if I take the steel SYC, if I am going to substitute the steel SYC, if I draw a horizontal line intersect, if I am going to get this value will be how much you are going to get it in case of steel? It will be 30. And if I take the steel elastic limit, the corresponding x coordinate will be 100. Steel. If I change the material, once again this will change. Now, if I take any value less than 30, this I am calling as S dash. If I taken a S dash, y coordinate is sigma E dash. Now sigma E dash is greater than SYC, means crushing will occur, means it is representing about a short column. Now similarly, if I taken a S double dash, sigma E double dash. The sigma E double dash is less than elastic limit. Less than elastic limit means it is undergoing elastic deformation, means elastic buckling. Corresponding to S dash, I'm getting a buckling stress of sigma E dash, which is less than, or which is greater than SYC. Means is representation of short column, because short columns are failed by crushing due to yielding. And S double dash, sigma E double dash, which is less than elastic limit, means it is a long column, means up to 30, that is up to S1. This is representing what now? Long columns, sorry, short columns. And between S1 and S2, medium column, and greater than S2, long columns. Now if I take a value between S1 and S2, if I take any value between S1 and S2, what the y coordinate now? Greater than elastic limit, less than SYC, means it is neither completely elastic nor completely plastic. This word elastoplastic, then is nothing but about now medium columns. So this 30 is what? When you are going to get a 30 now, if I take steel SYC, I'm going to get a 30. And if I take steel elastic limit, I'm going to get it 200. You are going to get S2 is 100. If I change the material, then automatically SYC will change, elastic limit will change, then S1 and S2 are changes. So somebody will ask, now how do you know it means? It can also explain like this now. Up to S1, it is a short column. Why? What is the reason now? Why you are taking up to S1 is a short column means, sir, if I take any slenderness ratio less than S1, if I take any slenderness ratio less than S1, that is the will be the buckling stress is greater than SYC. Buckling stress greater than SYC means the undergoing elastic greater than SYC means yielding will occur in crushing. That's why the short column. And if I take any value greater than S2, if I take any value greater than S2, that S double dash is greater than S2, then the y coordinate, that is the buckling stress, is less than elastic limit. Less than elastic limit means it is undergoing elastic buckling. That's why the long column. So the x coordinate greater than S2. You take any x coordinate greater than S2, any value greater than S2, the buckling stress will be less than elastic limit, means the long column. And if you take the any value less than or equal to 30, less than or equal to 30 or less than or equal to S1, the buckling stress will be greater than SYC, means yielding will occur. Then is a short column. And if I take any value between these two now, the buckling stress will be greater than elastic limit and less than SYC. Then is a medium column. So this completes this topic. Only 2 questions to be discussed in the workbook. So with this one, this is sufficient for examination point of view. All the questions you can answer it. And some questions already are completed. Some questions you have completed. That is what now? Eccentric axial loading questions you already completed. Already 4 questions. When you have discussed the eccentric axial loading concept, you already completed. With that one as well as this one, whatever I discussed, maybe 1.5 hour lecture. So you can answer any of the question now. Only 2 questions to be discussed. So one question is a combination of columns as well as the thermal stresses. Other question is going to be completely column. The 2 questions I'm going to discuss. With that one, you can answer all the questions. You can answer it now. So before solving the workbook questions, then try to refer this 2 lectures or maybe uploaded as a single lecture only. Go through the lecture properly and prepare your notes, refer it. Then you can solve the workbook question as well as the previous engineering service. Now, present syllabus, you don't have the engineering service syllabus. But your previous papers or previous old papers, engineering services column chapter was there. So there are a number of questions for practice. Gate questions are going to be, few questions are going to be there now. But try to, when you are practicing the previous engineering service paper, don't refer the Rankine formula, etc. Present syllabus, you don't have a Rankine formula. Only Euler formula is there in the gate syllabus now. Chapter number 10. Question number 6. Chapter number 10, question number 6. This question I'm discussing almost last 20 years now. This was given very old paper, before 1990 it was given now. But I'm discussing when I started my classes for GATE and ESC at the time onwards. This question are referred when I appeared for the GATE examination. But once I joined the faculty and we used to give the coaching for the ESC and GATE, so I'm discussing this. But the same question repeated 2 times recently. Very old paper, almost 25-30 years back question was given. Every year I'm discussing, but that was given 2 times in the recent GATE papers, maybe 4-5 years back. It was given now. The question was like this. I'm doing without numericals. A prismatic bar hinged at both the ends. A prismatic bar is hinged at both the ends. Hinged at both the ends, prismatic bar. How many end conditions you have studied now? Both and fixed, both and hinge, fixed and hinge, and fixed and free. But it's given hinged at both the ends. Its numericals are given, but I'm doing without numericals. You can substitute it now. Diameter is given in the question. Young's model is given alpha. Alpha is the what now? Coefficient of thermal expansion. It is not the length fixity coefficient. Units are given. Alpha 10 into 10 to the power of minus 6 steel. But the steel alpha value no 12 into 10 to the power minus 6. So alpha is the not the length fixity coefficient. Alpha is the coefficient of thermal expansion. And it asks the question is what now? Temperature is increase. What the temperature rise necessary? How much temperature rise necessary is required to induce a buckling? Determine how much change in temperature required so that buckling will occur. So combine the concept of a student who is thorough with the thermal stresses, and this he can do it now. But some batches I have not done it because this topic is to be generally discussed at the end of the subject. So I left this question. I've asked some of the students are mentioning, sir, I'm unable to do this question. If you are unable to do this question, means you are not applying the concept. So many times I mentioned completely strengthened the application of the concepts only. No chapter the independent, all are interrelated. So you have to apply the thermal stress concept here now. When the temperature increases, what happens now? The bar will try to expand like this. But two hinge supports will not permit now. Which support will restrict the axial motion? Whenever temperature length will increase, axial motion is there now. But if this axial motion should be restricted, I have to use the either two fixed supports or two hinge supports or fixed and hinged. Either I can use two hinge supports or two fixed supports or one fixed and hinged. But fixed and free cannot be used now. So two hinge supports are given now. But these supports will not permit it now. When the temperature increases, the bar will try to expand towards left and right. But these supports will not permit, therefore this will come under what now? Completely restricted expansion. Completely restricted expansion. So when this what now, the bar will try to expand right this towards right. So this support will offer a reaction towards left. When the temperature in this end what now expand towards left side, then support will offer a reaction towards right side. Now, which is the constant, which is the varies here now? This R is a variable. R is depend upon the what? A change in temperature. More change in, if there is no change in temperature, R is 0. If the temperature increases, what happens? More increase in length. More increase in length means more reactions are going to be there. So this R is a variable. R value depend upon the change in temperature. But which one is a constant? Once a bar is manufactured, what happens? Which is the constant? Buckling load is a constant. What is the buckling load now? Pi square E I minimum upon LE square. Bar is Young's modulus fixed. I is fixed. What the I value now? Pi by 64 d to the power of 4. Diameter is fixed. Length is fixed. And end conditions are fixed. So for a given bar, once that only so many times I mentioned now. For a given bar or a given member, given column, buckling load is fixed. Once a column is manufactured, material is what? Young's modulus fixed. Dimensions are fixed. So these cross-sectional dimensions are fixed, length is fixed, and end conditions are fixed. So E is constant for a given column, dimensions are constant, as well as end conditions are constant. Therefore, buckling load is going to be constant. Given column, I'm writing in terms of N. I'm not in the LE. Because some students are going to what? LE means alpha L. This alpha they are going to substitute it now. Here alpha will be what? A length fixed coefficient. But in the question is given what now? Alpha is the coefficient of thermal expansion. That's why to avoid the confusion I have taken N. Now can you substitute it now? What the N value for both ends hinged? N value is what now? 1. What the I minimum? Pi by 64 d to the power of 4. So this will be pi cube E d to the power of 4 is a constant. Once a column is manufactured or fabricated, E is fixed, diameter is fixed. But what about the R? R is about a varies. For a completely restricted, how to find out this now? Axial compressive load. How to get an axial compressive load? Axial stress multiplied by area. Axial stress means thermal stress. This is nothing but axial load. Axial load is given by axial stress multiplied by area. Axial stress multiplied by area. But axial stress is about a thermal stress. But since a completely restricted, what the thermal stress expression now? But the thermal stress expression was written now. Alpha into T into E upon C. T into E upon C. C the what now? One default for uniform temperature. Nothing is mentioned, means you are using the uniform temperature. So now this is a variable. Alpha is fixed. E is fixed. Area is fixed. But what about T? T is nothing but a change in temperature. This is a varies. So this value will what now? Varies. Is a variable. It is depend upon the change in temperature. If the change in temperature 0, R will be 0. If the change in temperature, R will increases. Alpha area given column. This is a variable. As the change in temperature increases, R will increase. Assume this value is time being 10 kilonewtons. This is a 10 kilo, is a constant. But as the change in temperature increases, what happens now? This will increase. So whenever this R value greater than 10 kilonewton, what happens? Buckling will occur. So many times I mentioned buckling load is the maximum compressive load that a column can withstand without undergoing buckling. So whenever this value R is greater than, buckling will occur. So what is the mention? What is the condition for buckling? Condition for buckling. R is greater than buckling load. R is greater than buckling load. So now you can substitute what the R expression now. Alpha into T into pi by 4 D square. What the PE now? Pi square E D to the power of 4 64 L square. Now you can simplify from this one. Which one will cancel out now? E will get cancelled out. D square, this will become as D square. 1 pi will get cancelled out. Pi square, this is a 4 and this will become as 16. So from this one, what the T now? Here T is nothing but a change in temperature. Pi square D square 16 pi square D square upon 16 alpha L square. 16 alpha L square. Now substitute the net data now. Diameter is given in the question. Alpha is the coefficient of thermal expansion is given. L is given. Check it. As per the given data, you are going to get some 49 point. Numerical data is given in the question. D is given, alpha is given, L is given. Check it, 49.34. What the meaning of this now? Suppose the room temperature is what? 30 degrees centigrade. Means when the buckling will occur now, when the temperature is what? 79.34. If the initial temperature is what now? Some 30 degrees centigrade, room temperature. So if the bar should be what? Heated up to which temperature now? 79.34 degrees centigrade. Means if the final temperature is what now? 79.34 degrees, more than this now, buckling will get it now. So if the buckling should not occur, means you have to ensure that the temperature of the bar should be less than 79.34 degrees centigrade. 17 less than, I'm assuming the initial temperature 30, or otherwise change in temperature should be less than so many degrees centigrade. 49.34. That's the answer. Answer is going to be A. But in the entire thermal stress chapter, what you have studied, now we are not considered buckling. Clearly I mentioned in the entire thermal stress chapter, when temperature increases, we are assuming the short column. Short column, there is no buckling. But once is mentioned as about, I can check the L by D ratio. Length is so many meter, diameter in mm is given now. So here it is default is what, once a buckling is mentioned means it should be considered long column. But entire thermal stress chapter we are not considered buckling, because means we are assuming the what the short column. That was the one of the major assumption is made in the thermal stress chapter. And one of the recent paper is asked now. This was a numerical question. And one of the recent paper is asked theory question. 1 mark question is given. Change in temperature required for induced buckling is proportional to. Change in temperature required to induce buckling is proportional to d square, d cube, d to the power of 4. Most of students have taken d to the power of 4. So buckling, but in the question is not asking buckling load. Change in temperature asking now. Change in temperature proportional to what, a d square. So answer will be what, a d square. So this was the question was given now. Change in temperature induce buckling, to induce buckling. It's also given in the answer will be D or B. But most of students have taken d to the power of 4. They have seen the buckling load. Buckling load is proportional d to the power of 4. In the question is not asking the buckling load. What is asked the question now? The change in temperature necessary to induce buckling proportional to d square, d cube, d to the power of 4. So most of students, what they will do it, they will substitute the numericals. So do finally substitute the numericals. Try to get the expression, then finally you can substitute the numericals now. So this with this one, what you can complete it now? 2 questions you can complete it. Numericals are given, you can complete it, as well as what now? This question also can complete it now. So this is the explanation for the question number 6. Same question is going to be given in the workbook, partially restricted. Some gap was given now. Then at that time, what change you have to make it now? We are given the partially restricted. Generalized expression was given now. For thermal stress was given now. That you have to use it now. Next, one more question is there. Question number 7. Question number 7. Only these are the 2 questions. Some of the students are going to get it out. So many times when I started the strength of metal first day itself, I mean, the subjects are completely interrelated. No chapters are independent chapters. All are interrelated. So that's why I focus most of the what now? Concept. You have to focus on the concept and then you have to link that concept now. So question number 7 was like this. A column is hinged at both the ends. A column is hinged at both the ends. And its buckling load is some 10 kilonewtons is given now. The first one. A column is hinged at both the ends. Its buckling load is going to be, I'm assuming, PE. PE1. Now, what is asked the question now? Due to this one, what happens now? It asks in the question is what now? Lateral movement exactly at mid height is restricted. Lateral movement exactly at mid height is restricted. Then what about the buckling? So if we apply like this, what happens now? This is both end hinge. What is the shape of the buckling curve? So this is a buckling curve. We are going to get it now. Buckling curve. And exactly at mid height, we are getting what now? This much of lateral movement we are getting. Now what is asked the question now? Here exactly at mid height at B, this lateral movement should be restricted. Lateral movement should be restricted. Means there should not be any lateral movement here now. But the lateral movement at A, 0. But the lateral movement at C, 0. Means exactly at B also lateral movement should be 0. Means I have to apply a compressive load like this now. If you apply a compressive load, if I am going to put my finger like this now, this will offer a compressive load. Then lateral movement is going to be restricted. But who will provide this axial compressive load? Means I have to provide a hinge support. Sir, why hinge support, sir? Why not fixed support? When you have to go for a fixed support is compulsory when now? When rotation to be restricted. But in the question is mentioned about a lateral movement. Fixed support is compulsory when now? When rotation to be restricted. But in the question is mentioned what now? Lateral movement should be restricted. Means I have to provide a one more hinge support here now. One more hinge support should be provided. My finger is about now? Compressive load. So this is going to be provided by one more support. I have to provide it. Now one more support should be provided. Now if I'm going to provide a one more support here now, hinge support. I'm going to provide a one more hinge support exactly at mid height. Hinge support. Then what the shape of the buckling curve? I'm calling this is P1. This buckling load I'm taking P. Now what the shape of the buckling curve? We are going to get it now. Now this is the shape we are going to get it now. Now exactly at mid height, lateral movement is restricted. Lateral movement is restricted. Now it's asking what this buckling load value now. In both the case, which one is same now? E is same, material is same. Buckling load is what? A pi square E I minimum upon L E square. E is same, moment of inertia same. Then what about the effective length will change? Here what the effective length? Now both ends hinged, both ends hinged. What the effective length now? L. Here alpha value is what now? 1. So this is about now. So buckling load, what here written now? Effective length is equal to alpha into L. So here LE1 is equal to L. Means alpha 1 is 1. Alpha 1 is 1. Now here this will be about the effective length now. Both ends hinged. Therefore this will be about effective length now. This is effective length. So effective length become half. So in this case, means alpha value will be 1 by 2. Now you can get it now. For a given E, given moment of inertia, buckling load is inversely proportional to L E square. PE2 upon PE1. Because L is what this value now? Alpha 1 by alpha 2. That will be 4. So the buckling load is increased by 4 times now. In the question, first one is given as what? A buckling load is 10. So the second column buckling load will be 40. PE1 is given in the question is what? A 10. Therefore PE2 will be 40. So now by restricting the lateral moment exactly at the mid height, the buckling load of this one will be what? 4 times the buckling load of first one. Because effective length is become L by 2. Effective length is become L by 2. That is alpha is becoming half. Then automatically buckling load is what now? Increases by 4 times. So this is the explanation now. Exactly at mid height is what are restricted now. Most of sir, why you are taken hinge supports or why not fixed support? Fixed support is compulsory when rotational moment should be restricted. Rotation to be restricted, fixed support. I need only lateral moment should be restricted, means I have to use the hinge support. So directly effective length you can call that about distance between the 2 point of contraflexion. Point of contraflexion means the point of inflection you have studied now. Here the shape of the curve is going to be what? Changes now. This is totally the effective length. Therefore it is going to be L by 2. Here one hinge support, L. Here one hinge and one hinge. So this is not the effective length now. The effective length is become a half. Then alpha will become as half. So this will be the explanation for this given question now. So with this one, now this chapter is completed. This was a chapter was pending in 2 batches. That is a Hyderabad batch as well as Delhi last batch, maybe CDF. I not remembered exactly, maybe CDF. So this lecture will be, it will be uploaded in our Prime app. So then you can refer it. So now you can complete all the questions with respect to GATE examination. You can complete it now. So 2 questions I done it. Indirectly I done the 3 more questions I done it now. So this complete this chapter number 10. So total subject I completed now. So wish you all the best. So my suggestion is appear for the test series exams as well as go through the QRC. Quick revision concept. Almost I spent the 10 hours for the very important conclusions of strength of material. So whatever the concept conclusions was given in the class, apart from that now, for your quick revision. So whatever the QRC prepared by me, so try to refer that QRC in Medidhi Prime app. So that will be very useful. Not only mine, strength of material like this, but all the subjects, all the faculties are would now spend sufficient time. So that will save your time instead of your revising. So try to take the help of the QRC. It will save your time. So that will utilize what now very useful. You can save your time and appear for the test series. Analyze your performance. Wish you all the best. Thank you, one and all. Thank you.